Welcome back to Under Oath. I don't like people. Don't like it.
That's a hell of a way to start a podcast.
No, I don't like
that
people.
relies on people watching, listening.
If you're one of the people I'm talking about, then you don't have to listen to me. I don't like when people do heinous things that are upset when bad things occur because of their heinous actions. For example,
mean like someone gets their consequences come back to them?
Yes. Well, consequences.
Poetic justice,
yes.
we might call it.
Yeah, everyone's upset the minute they do something. Like, I love these riots where somebody will riot and then somebody punches them in the face. And they are shocked to get punched in the face. Oh, my God.
Because
I just set fire to your car. I cannot believe you punched me in the face.
They're used to getting away with it because nobody enforces the law anymore.
Okay. Well,
so they're shocked. They're shocked when somebody actually is willing to enforce a law.
Okay, well, it's not always enforcing the law. It's kind of like football. You don't ever see the first foul. You don't see the first foul.
You mean the ref never sees the first foul? We always see the first foul.
Okay. Restaurant owner, unarmed teen. The unarmed teen steals the tip jar. What do you think happens? Owner shoots him. No, that's not funny. It's just so funny that's it. $30. Boof.
And it's a little
clearly
bit,
excessive force.
It's a little bit poetic justice happening.
It depends where he gets shot. Now, it's funnier.
Did he die?
He
shouldn't die, but I think he should definitely take a pop.
He's in stable condition. He's in stable condition.
Good.
But here's the thing. I think depending where you shoot somebody, we either forgive it or we don't. Shoot him in the head? No, come on. That's ridiculous. Now, if he takes a shot to the ass, you take a bullet to your right butt cheek or something, it's a little funny.
Yeah, we got to let that one go if that's...
Now, this isn't
right,
my...
We have got to not prosecute the shop owner if he shot him in the ass.
Now, this is not my legal assessment. I'm not going to say this is my legal assessment. But here's the problem. I'm tired. I'm tired of people hiding behind the law. When somebody does something heinous, they're the victim of their own crime. In this case,
can't shoot me. You can't shoot me because my back's turned.
I'm working my butt off. I'm living off tips. And you think, well, I'm just going to steal his tip jar. And it's a teenager. It's not like a homeless guy. That's not the facts where I'm starving, just a piece of bread. This isn't like Les Mis where Jean Valjean wants a roll of bread. We're talking about a kid who's a jerk off, whose parents have not taught him.
Yeah, he's going to use that money to buy a skateboard or a video game or something.
They don't even do anything anymore. Skateboards, that require them to exercise. No, it's I got the new PS5, the Spider-Man 2. That's what I'm stealing the tip money for. And I got to tell you this.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I'll be honest, Jeff.
Well,
I don't have a problem.
Here's what happens. I think what happens is the owner, and I'm going to argue for the owner. The owner is obviously suffering from some kind of PTSD because he has been just treated so wrongly in his life that he steals somebody steals a tip jar and he goes, I'm going to unload on him.
That's it.
That's it.
I've had enough.
That's it. I've had this enough and I can't take no more.
That's what it sounds like happened. I'm
boy.
not going to take any more. Not another inch of this.
It becomes Looney Tunes in 10 seconds where you start thinking And do
you know why that is? You know why that shop owner is probably that way? Because nobody's enforcing the law. Where is Pennsylvania?
He gets ripped off all the time.
Yeah, it probably
He gets ripped off all the time. And he's tired.
Police used to enforce the law. You know, back when I was 15, if I had stolen a tip jar, they would have prosecuted me. Yeah. They would have taken me to JV. They would have said, hey,
Juvie.
Yeah, JV. Not JV. Yeah, no,
what are you playing? JV. Go back to your football days.
My metaphors mixed up from high school.
JV.
They were taking me to juvie. And I would have had to have answered for my crime. They would have put me on probation. They would have said, hey, you got to maybe even work at that restaurant for 20 hours, 40 hours. Maybe see what it's like to have to earn a tip, right? That's what would have happened. But nowadays, they're not even going to bother. They're not even going to bother. The kid steals $15. Who is going to use the administrative resources to teach this kid a lesson? Nobody.
But you can't. You and I both know. You can't shoot somebody for stealing a tip jar.
You kind of can.
No, you can't with a BB gun.
You kind of can.
With a Nerf, with a like, But
Are you allowed
can't.
to use? Are you allowed to use force?
Deadly
to
force.
stop a robbery.
Deadly force.
Are you allowed to use deadly force to stop a robbery?
No.
You are actually.
Only if somebody's life is in jeopardy.
You are. No,
this isn't somebody's house.
No.
You can't.
Even strong arm robbery. If I walk up to
strong
you,
arm.
If I walk
but that
up,
requires me to take from you.
If I walk up to a little old lady,
okay,
and I just intimidate her, and I said, "Listen, give me all your money in your purse right now, or it's going to go real bad for you."
That's not what happened.
And she pulls out a gun. I know, but I'm just saying you can use deadly force to stop.
Yes,
robbery.
in a situation where this is. You think you compare this stealing the tip jar to me going up to the little old lady?
But technically, it's a robbery.
I'm theft. It's actually, depending on how much it is, it's petty theft.
Yeah, it's probably petty theft. I doubt a tip jar has more than $300 in it. They need to, if it does,
empty that out. That's on you, man.
You guys got to empty that out every $50.
Now, here's the problem I have with this, because I just don't even know if there's an answer anymore. I think you get so tired of justice being a store owner. Every day you turn around, somebody's spraying they're graffiti all year, they're stealing your stuff. Mob, for example, in California right now, they have the huge mobs going in, stealing thousands of things at a time. None of these kids are getting arrested. Nobody cares. Everyone's making excuses. As an owner, do you eventually just lose your mind?
Yes. This is what happens.
I shot this kid for stealing a tip jar. I'm so beat up.
Mercy to the criminal is cruelty to the victim. Somebody is going to have a bad day. Who are we as a society? Who's going to have the bad day? The person actually breaking the law, or somebody not breaking the law, but we don't want to make the poor disadvantaged youth suffer the consequences of his own action?
Pleading to, let's say, I'm using an affirmative defense of mental disability, mental incompetence. If I'm the store owner and I say, I just could not, depending on what state you are, there are different rules as far as the mens rea, meaning my intent, how I felt, what would cover under the mental issues I have. Now, one of them happens to be certain states you're in. I can't appreciate my actions. What if I just lose my mind? Screw it. I can't even help myself anymore.
On a temporary basis?
Yes.
Well, I mean, that if it's a legitimate loss of your ability to tell right from wrong, then then you shouldn't be punished.
Bang! Just like that, right?
Shouldn't be punished if you legitimately
stealing my tip
lost.
jar. Bang! I'm off the hook.
Yeah, I'd be hard to. Especially
Depends
if you
on
have
my
a
jury.
business owner.
Depends on my jury.
If you have a business owner, like he's running a business, so how
Depends on what city
how
you're
mentally
in.
incompetent could he be?
I could walk. In Volusia County, I might be able to walk.
See, that's the thing.
Orange County, I'd be
the
burned.
police shouldn't even prosecute that.
They're going to. They have to.
That's the problem. Why do they have to?
Because
why do they have to prosecute
it's public
that?
now.
Hold on, stop. Why do they have to prosecute that, but not have to prosecute the kid stealing the $15 in the first place?
Because it's not news that somebody stole a tip jar. It is news that I shot the guy.
What do we want? Do we want to make news, or do we want to make a good society?
Good society is based on our ability to follow rules. And one of the things is
enforce them.
Well, if it becomes public knowledge that I'm not going to enforce a law where a guy shot a guy for a tip jar, then you got the Wild Wild West.
Then you might have people thinking, oh, I better not steal any more tip jars. I might get shot.
So the death penalty works.
That might be a good thing.
The death penalty works.
At least the threat of the death penalty.
No, it doesn't. We know death penalty doesn't work.
Oh, yes, it does.
Stop it.
Yes,
Nobody
it
cares.
Does. That's not true.
Nobody cares.
People
get shot. More people get shot now than they
people
ever
are
have.
not going to go out of their way to commit crimes when they know they might be shot.
Nobody cares. See, you know what? I'm going to tell you something right now, people. If the death penalty got creative, then it would be a deterrent. For example, you get a shot now, you fall asleep. That's it. And that sucks. It sucks to fall asleep. But let's say, you know those food processors? Like a lava machine?
You get thrown in one of those?
Oh, yeah. You get blended. They go, and I'm not talking like, hey, we gave you a shot before you got blended. I mean, you get dropped in one of these things, you're standing there, and suddenly you see the spinning wheels like they had in, I forget what that movie, Galaxy Quest, and they're spinning around, and they're coming at you, and we videoed it.
That might fall into the category of cruel and unusual.
Is it really cruel if you took somebody else's life? You already committed the cruelty.
It isn't that what you did was cruel and unusual. That usually is true.
Should you die the same way
It usually
you
is
did?
true that the murderer is doing something cruel and unusual. You don't want to have the state to have the right to do something cruel and unusual. If the state is going to put you to death, then they should put you to death in a non-cruel, non-unusual way, which, by the way, firing squad is fine. That is not cruel and unusual.
Certain states not allowed.
Hanging is not cruel and unusual.
Certain states not allowed.
Hanging people was done all throughout history.
Not anymore. Cruel and unusual now.
I don't know.
Now, even shots are now considered cruel and unusual someplace because they say, oh, it might not work quickly. You know what work quickly? A juicer.
No, the
law
electric
machine.
chair? Yeah.
No, I'm not. No, I'm talking the food processor I want to put into Tallahassee or somewhere.
Hey, you can't do it.
You know why?
Can't do it.
I promise you this. You'd have people not stealing tip jars. They're so afraid about being juiced. God forbid somebody dies, I'm going to get juiced. Now, I don't see a problem with the idea, and I know certain countries work differently because we have justice systems. We know that our justice system can be screwed up based on having a crappy lawyer. You and I saw this. Now, Craig and I, we can agree on a couple things. You know, we could be liberal and conservative on certain things. But one thing you can't be is we both know, depending on the quality of your attorney, you're either making big rocks into little rocks or you're walking free sometimes. And we used to sit here and watch some of the worst attorneys on the planet submarine their clients. And we worked our ass off for our clients, but the people who had our jobs beforehand didn't.
No, they sure didn't. Yeah, they sure didn't. I mean, I like to say that's more true, I think, in criminal cases than civil cases. Civil cases, the facts mean a lot more than the attorney. Criminal cases, man, who your attorney is, that really does mean a lot. If the prosecutor knows that there's a chance they might lose a trial against you, they're gonna give you a good deal.
Or they'll just walk away from it.
Yeah, which can also kind of backfire because you can represent these folks and get them off, and then you've lost that deterrent. But at least you prosecuted them, though, right? So at least you prosecuted them. Here's the problem: this guy wouldn't have shot this kid if it was routine and regular for kids who run in and steal tip jars to be prosecuted. He wouldn't.
Now, California right now in San Francisco, they don't prosecute anything under a certain amount of money. I think it's like $900 or something.
Which is an invitation to do it.
And their stores are getting killed. They're getting crushed, everything else like that. Do you think that's an issue of, now their argument is we can't afford it. It's bankrupting our system. But if businesses move out, that's tax money.
Yes.
That's everything else.
Yes.
So do you really believe that the issue is about bankrupting their system, or let's call it pandering?
It's both. It's both. It's a nearsighted method of dealing with a problem, and everyone's so afraid of being accused of being a racist. Everybody's so afraid of being accused of doing something that isn't PC that they just aren't doing anything. And what will end up happening is Walmarts and gas stations and all types of stores that people need are closing up, and they're leaving those communities, making those communities even more desperate. So you're losing money anyway because the tax revenue is going. So again, it goes back to the theme. Compassion for criminals is cruelty to victims. Somebody is going to suffer. This is a fallen world. People in it are going to suffer. Who are we going to have suffer? As a society, it's our choice. Who do we have suffer? The criminals committing the crime, or the people who aren't committing the crime because we're too scared to prosecute the criminals? Somebody's going to suffer one way or the other. I choose, let's have the criminals suffer.
The needs of the few, the many, outweigh the needs of the few or the one. Now, if Spock understood that.
The needs of the many outweigh
the needs of the many, yes. Now,
that's why
Spock
you
justice,
prosecute 15-year-olds who are stealing, I don't know, what, $40 worth
but
of
Kirk
tip
didn't
jars?
believe that. Is it a Kirk? Are we Spocks or Kirks? Kirk felt the other way. You shouldn't do that. We need to pay attention to the one. Now, here's the only issue I have. You and I both did juvenile law. There were judges who would hold kids accountable, and there were judges who didn't. Sometimes judges were too tough. There are times that I go where they said, okay, you're technically not guilty, but what's it going to harm you? What's it going to hurt for you to get punished for this? So I don't know.
I don't think those judges were trying to punish them as much as they were trying to get them away from their crappy families
And friends.
and friends. Like sometimes, kids will show up in front of you and you look at them and you see their parents and you saw this as much as I did.
Yeah.
You don't have a prayer. You're never going to make it. Not with these parents. So these judges, I think, sort of from a good place, would think, all right, if I can get this guy into a program, if I can get him away from his family and people who care about him at this facility, and they show him 6 months, 8 months of what it's like to have actually somebody care about you, try to teach you to read, try to teach you to do math, try to teach you to behave yourselves. I'm doing the kid a favor.
But I'm also sticking these kids now around other crappy kids, which we knew is the main cause of problems.
Yeah, there's no easy answer. There's no easy answer, but we know the parents aren't helping. The parents are not doing what they're supposed to do. Parents, you're supposed to whoop your kids
You can't
when they act out of line.
You can't beat your kids anymore. It doesn't work.
Well, you can.
It doesn't, because the world doesn't. The world thinks you're a monster for doing that. So you got to discipline them without physical violence. It doesn't.
Well, don't get the bullwhip out, but you can smack them.
Where do you go to bullwhip? Where do you sit?
Well, I have a bullwhip. You don't have one?
No.
In your garage? No. Okay.
No, I'm a minimalist. I don't have time. Spider-Man
You're
statues.
the last thing.
Spider-Man,
You're the farthest
Spider-Man
thing from
statues
a
and no
minimalist.
no bullet.
There is an entire room full of comic paraphernalia.
I don't know what you're talking
in this office. Mr. Minimalist.
Those are investments. The issue that you and I discover is people used to come to us and go, how do you solve the problem? And maybe that's why people are listening to the show. They go, well, I got 2 attorneys here. They've been practicing for 26, 27 years. Do they have the answer?
Yes.
I don't know if we have the
Yes,
answers,
we do.
but we have some facts. And you do what you do with the facts. Parents and friends, I would say, made up 90% of the problem. The other 10%, that's DNA. You're either smart enough or lazy enough or aggressive or not. Those were DNA issues. And I think you can get past your DNA with
you got
the
good
right
parents.
support.
Right friends, right parents, you can get by the DNA issue. Yes.
I mean,
agreed.
You and I talked to some kids, and we looked at them and go, God, you are a piece of crap. And we're going to fight for you. We're going to do everything possible. But they were terrible people. And they had something in them. Like there was that one kid, and I'm not going to mention his name, but he was named after a gunfighter. His parents named him after the most famous gunfighter in the world. And they're surprised that the kid turned out like a criminal. It's like, yeah, I named my kid Dominer. I was surprised when he ate somebody. I mean, such a cute name. Dahmer Kaufman.
Dahmer.
Yeah, no. But I mean, that's what happens when you set that bar so low. And we used to sit there with parents, and they would come to our office, and they'd be, oh, my kid didn't do anything. It's a system. It's his friends. It's everybody.
Common denominator? No dads. How many dads did we see in that courtroom? And when we did see a dad, we didn't see that kid again.
All right.
Right?
All right.
Most of the time when we saw dad would show up and dad would say, my kid deserved to get punished, and this is never going to happen again.
Or sometimes that father was so, I don't use the word because that's a porn thing. The father guy, I got to go home. The mother would be like going crazy, and the father would just be like looking in every different direction. I remember asking Dad, I said, you don't want to? He goes, listen, I got to go home. Because he knew if he didn't back his wife's play, it was over.
Yeah, maybe.
And I remember that happened on about 2 or 3 times.
All right, so no fathers or weak fathers.
Okay, now this is tough because people are hearing this and they're going, guys, and I didn't think about the father issue as much because, my mother, I was from a divorced family. So my mom did the majority of my raising. So I'm not saying that, single moms can't take care of their families. What I'm saying is, I remember you are right. The average person came in, it was only their mother. And where's the dad? And I used to ask, oh, well, he's not around. Fear will keep you from doing stupid things.
Yes.
Like we talked about the blender. The blender would keep me from killing somebody. If I
And
knew
if
I was going into the
if
blender, I
dad's
wouldn't
not
like it.
around to administer an ass whooping, but the cops administer an ass whooping when you do something wrong. Promise you, I'm willing to bet this 15-year-old kid stealing tips. No dad. There's no dad in that house, probably.
Or he had terrible friends. You know, that's
Possibly.
normal. You know,
I mean, yeah, maybe it's the one kid who gets dared, and they all are doing this for a thrill, and that's maybe why you don't shoot him in the head, because you don't know, is this some stupid one-off, and the kid's going to go on to be a mechanical engineer in college sometime, or is this kid is this first, second step onto a long path?
I might have
hurting other
saved a
people?
life by shooting this kid.
Yeah, yeah.
Oof, that's uncomfortable. Now, the store owner, we know what's going to happen. He's going to get prosecuted. He's going to eat a felony. The family's going to sue. You know, it's so great. You didn't do anything. Your kid did this, but we're going to sue because he shouldn't have shot. Now, if you shot him in the buttocks, I think a jury would go, that's fine.
Yeah, I think it's jury. The butt, the leg, the calf, something like that. Something that you should at least expect is not going to be lethal.
Yeah, like a 22 to the butt. That'd be a little funny.
a 22 almost anywhere isn't lethal.
For those who don't know what gun, that's a low round weapon.
It's a juiced up BB gun is a 22.
You can. It's not going breaking bones, but it sucks. It doesn't feel great. Now, I guess this all plays out the same way. In conclusion, you can't use excessive force to protect property unless there's an element of fear or your own life is on the end. But in the end, I think we should juice them. Well, yeah, I think we should try juicing in a state where
let's try it out.
Let's try it out.
Let's see how it works out. We'll experiment. Where do you want to experiment?
I think
Alabama?
Wyoming. You could pull that off in Wyoming because people go, "What happened? I got juiced. The kid got juiced."
They'd gather around at the rodeo
Next
stadium.
on Yellowstone, juiced.